Hi, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Music Monday, hosted by the Center for Slavic, East European, and Eurasian Studies at The Ohio State University. My name is Alicia Baca, and I'm the outreach coordinator at our center, and I am joined today by Dr. Diana Sacilowski, who is the Assistant Professor of Teaching for Polish here at Ohio State. As some of you may know, we run a weekly post on our Instagram and Facebook called Music Monday, where we share different artists and bands from across the regions with our audiences. And we're very lucky occasionally to have an interview with some of these musicians. Today is one such occasion, and we are lucky enough to interview Trupa Trupa from Poland. So we really hope you enjoyed today's interview. From the historic shipyards of Gdańsk emerges a sound that defies easy categorization. Equal parts post-punk, art rock, and poetic provocation, Trupa Trupa has carved out a space where music becomes a vessel for memory, absurdity, and resistance. Their work is haunted by history, covering topics such as World War II, the Holocaust, and the shadows of communism, but never weighed down by it. Instead, they confront the past with sonic experimentation and lyrical repetition that feels both urgent and timeless.
With international acclaim from outlets like The Wire, the LA Times, NPR, and Rolling Stone, performances at South by Southwest, Icelandic Airways, and Off Festival, and recognition from cultural icons, including film director Agnieszka Holland, Trupa Trupa has proven that their raw philosophical energy resonates in Poland and far beyond. Today, we sit down with frontman and poet Grzegorz Kwiatkowski to explore the paradoxes that fuel their creativity, the accidents that shape their journey, and the role of art in remembering what must not be forgotten.
And with that, we'd like to thank Grzegorz for joining us today.
Yes, welcome.
Welcome, and thank you so much for this great introduction. I've got a feeling that you said it all. I mean that now we know everything, and we can say bye-bye. But but
Right.
Interview's over.
But I really love the introduction, and I really love this situation that I'm talking with you, and I'm your guest. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. So could you tell us a little bit about Trupa Trupa, where you all are from? I kind of talked about that a little bit. Who's in the band and what instruments do you all play?
Yeah, so Trupa Trupa is a post-punk rock and roll band based in the city of Gdańsk, because right now I'm in Gdańsk in Poland. Gdańsk is the city in the north of Poland by the Baltic Sea. Very, very beautiful, very great city. And so we are all from Gdańsk. In the past, there were 4 musicians. Now we are a trio for 2 years. Wojtek Juchniewicz is singing and playing on a bass guitar. Tomek Pawluczuk is playing on the drums. I'm also singing and playing on a guitar, electric guitar. And we are friends. We are making music for many years. And in some way, almost nothing is changing, but we are changing nonstop, and especially right now as a trio, and we've got a feeling that we are just that we're just beginning, really, but we're not. But very important thing about Trupa Trupa is Gdańsk, really, and usually and normally in rock and roll bands, you've got leaders, frontmen, and you've got one vision. And we are a band with a democratic structure when every one of us has got a different vision, different ideas, and even quite different taste when we think about music. So, and democracy is very. Democratic structure is not a natural structure. I think the natural structure is like Darwinistic domination, and so it's very hard to be in a democratic band. It's very hard to compose and to move forward, but it's very great to be in such a band. It's like a big privilege because you are learning to be a better person. You're learning to communicate in non-violent way. Everyone is pushing in everyone's side, but we don't want to hurt hurt our friends because we are really friends, we are really family. And I think that the most important thing in Trupa Trupa is both music and ethical stuff and friendship and love. This is very, very important. So for us, our state of mind, non-violent state of mind is maybe it's even more important than music.
That's really interesting. I have actually a slight follow-up to that, but that democratic nature, I mean, that must give a kind of eclectic sound to your music, like a mixed sound to your music.
Definitely, and I was always very afraid of that. I mean, that I always heard and I always thought that, the democracy doesn't work in art world and art, that it's disaster. And sometimes yes, sometimes no, but actually the best things we did in Trupa Trupa world we did as a compromise, and I would even say as an accident. So, for example, we were in the past we really weren't happy with such some songs and some steps, and we thought that it's disaster, and it was an effect of compromise. And after all, these were the biggest successes, but we didn't see that. Then we had a great big feedback, and we thought, oh, it's really interesting, but we didn't see that. But and now we learned how to play with accidents and how to play with democracy and different visions. So I think that this eclectic state of things is the best thing in Trupa Trupa world, really. And it doesn't mean that you've got a lot of different styles in one song, but it's about dynamic. It's about state of conflict. You can just feel the pressure in these songs. You can just feel that. I think that the best songs are, that, for example, I'm singing something in rather naive Lennon-esque Beatles way because I really love the Beatles. And my friend Wojtek, who loves Fugazi, means no, and post-punk scene, he just in some way, and in the same song, a few moments later, he's just crushing with a hammer my romanticism, and then build great amplitudes and great dynamic situation.
Nice, excellent.
Actually, I wonder, could you tell us a little bit more about the music scene in Gdańsk?
I think that Gdańsk is a really fascinating city because we've got a shipyard. We are by the Baltic Sea. We had even in the communism era, because maybe I will say just few words about history. So because Gdańsk is the city of solidarity worker movement. So in 80s there was a working workers movement, and Lech Wałęsa, very great non-violent movement, pacifistic movement, and Lech Wałęsa and this group of workers, they destroyed the communism regime in 80s in the Central Europe. So they were big heroes, and so this is the city of hope that that the change can come. On the other hand, the Second World War started here in Gdańsk. So one of the worst events in the world's history started here in Gdańsk on the 1st of September 1939. So it's also very fascinating, this mix of pessimistic issues and optimistic issues, I think. And what is more, Gdańsk is really a beautiful city full of nature. So we've got a Baltic Sea, but we've got also great lakes and great forests. So really fascinating place. You should visit Gdańsk, definitely. And I'm telling about it because you asked about the musical scene in Gdańsk, and it affects artists in Gdańsk. And even in communism era, we because Gdańsk was a port, and we were always open for new ideas, even in this very isolated communism time. A lot of Western ideas were circulating here in Gdańsk. And so there are a lot of great politicians, musicians, writers in Gdańsk, and it was always like that. And the music from Gdańsk is a bit different from the music from other parts of Poland. I think that it's more open. It's more not romantic, but I would say open. It's not so compressed, and it's yeah. So the spirit of freedom is really visible. You can hear it in this music, and I will tell you another thing. Most of the biggest artistic mm, maybe in a different way. So the biggest number of artists that are well known outside of Poland are from Gdańsk, not from Warsaw, the capital, but from Gdańsk. And I think it's not an accident. I think it's always it's like that. And I think that these democratic issues and like Wałęsa as big freedom fighter, they in some way build this kind of a free atmosphere, and we know that we are part of the world. You know what I mean? That we are part of the world. We are not afraid of the others. We just feel in a cosmopolitan way.
Yes, thank you.
So you've already spoken a bit about this, but for someone who's never heard the band, how would you describe its music? How would you describe your sound?
Well, post-punk, alternative rock music. I really don't know. I mean that it's really a hard thing. I mean that because if you would ask everyone, if you would ask my friend Wojtek or Tomek, they would have a different idea. I don't know. For me, it's like a rock and roll band, and but I think it's weird. It's like odd. Maybe it's odd. It's weird. It's like especially concerts are very very energetic and very punchy, and I think it's not an obvious proposition, and I think it's also very open on the listener. I mean that it's eclectic, and because of that, the listener can decide what is it.
Yeah.
He can make he or she they can make a final decision. What is it for them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
You see that openness that you described
Yeah.
about the Gdańsk in that
Yeah.
definition for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yes,
I think
yes.
that definitely rings true because I was well, we both were listening to several of your songs before the interview and well before the interview, if I'm being perfectly honest. But I think that is really nice that your music does allow for listeners to kind of, have it suit them.
Connect.
Connect with
yeah.
them in a like a very specific individualized way.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm making the same thing with the poetry, and to be full true, for me, the great thing about art is the part of the art world is that I love the art which is not so produced and cooked. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
really open, and the listener is making his final statement. He's making his final narration, and I love it.
Nice. So that being said, too, what other bands would you compare your music or sound to if you had to?
If I had to, I'm listening mostly to the classical music. 95% of music I'm listening, so I'm not
Nice.
listening to rock and roll bands really. I mean, then so it's hard for me to do
Yeah.
that. For me, but I really, I love Velvet Underground. I love Beatles. I love Fugazi. I love Sonic Youth. I love Tame Impala. I love stuff. But for me, Goldberg Variation by Bach and Mozart and Magic Flute by these are real heroes.
Yeah.
Glenn Gould. For me, these are really heroes. But it's not about competition in a way, and who's
Yeah.
better.
Oh, yeah.
But I really, for me, Glenn Gould is a more radical musician than Mick Jagger. All respect to Mick Jagger.
Okay.
Awesome.
So maybe we should have actually asked this question sooner. But can you explain the name of the band a bit? Trupa Trupa. Where does that come from?
This you can translate it as corpse or theatrical troupe. These are two same words, but you can understand it in this Dadaistic way, like a play with nonsense words. I mean, the name of the band is also open, so it can mean something for someone or nothing. That's all. And I think we don't have, as a members of this band, we don't have any specific ideas. And I think that's a really big point about Trupa Trupa. I mean that we play a lot of years together, but we really don't have one idea, and we really don't have one artistic statement. We are still changing, and we really, in some way, I would even say it, we don't know a lot about ourselves, and we don't know a lot about our music. We are making music in a very unconsciousness way, and I think this is great state because it's very exciting for us.
Nice. So, and you kind of talked about this a little bit earlier too, but what other bands or musicians or artists have been most influential to Trupa Trupa?
You mean Polish or just the bands internationally?
Anybody, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. I mean, for me, I love, as I told you, I love classical music, like for Franz Schubert, Mozart, Beethoven, Wagner, and this kind of stuff. But and Glenn Gould. But also I love Bonnie Prince Billy. I love Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, Beatles, Velvet Underground. This kind of stuff. I really. Yeah, but my friends, Wojtek, who is also a singer in the band, he loves a lot of stuff like Fugazi, No Winds No, and Swans, and this kind of Sonic Youth, this kind of bands.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, excellent. So your latest EP, which came out earlier this year, is Mourners. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, we are very happy because of this release. It's our first album as a trio, and it's a first album recorded with a new producer, with Nick Launey. And Nick Launey is like a world famous VIP producer. He produced almost all albums of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds and a lot of artists, Amelie and the Sniffers, Idols, and more. And so he went from Los Angeles, from Hollywood Hills to Gdańsk, and we started to work together, and we didn't know each other earlier, so it was very, we were a bit afraid, but after all, we are great friends, and Nick is the most nice person in the world. So it's very important album for us because I think you can feel the new energy on this release, and it's more punchy, it's more direct, it's, I guess, less eclectic, and we really love the sound, and that's why I told you earlier that we are like big beginning, and this is the new band in some way, and we feel that we are really beginning.
Nice.
And this Mourners album, and Nick, yeah, I think it's very, very important in the band's history. Well, we are proud of every album, but I think this one is very special.
That's so cool. Well, congrats on that.
Yeah.
On that note, do you have a favorite song by Trupa Trupa, or are they all your favorite?
Well, I love every Trupa Trupa song. If we wouldn't be proud of them, we wouldn't show it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of songs that in the box, but I love the song called Mourners. Yeah, the title track from the album. Yeah, I love the situation where I'm singing and my friend is singing, and I sound a bit naive, and he's like shouting and screaming, and there is like a inner fight. Yeah, I think it brings some cathartic feelings, and yeah, I really love it.
Nice, interesting. So you guys have toured internationally in Europe, but also recently in the US. How has that experience been?
Yeah, Well, we were always touring in US and in Europe, and actually the US was very important from the very beginning because a few years ago we signed with American label with Sub Pop from Seattle, and we our really important feedback was always from US. Actually, I mean that when we recorded our first international album called Headache, one of the first reviews and very rave review was published in Los Angeles Times, and it was like one of the best bands in the rock and roll music right now is Trupa Trupa from Gdańsk, and it was a real game changer for us, and it opened a lot of doors. And then we went on South by Southwest to Austin, Texas,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. You know, it was one big mess and chaos, but we killed it. I mean, that we were in top 10 NPR, Rolling Stone, and everything after this festival, and then we signed with a booking agency, etc., etc. So then we went, then we started to tour in US more and more. And now we are doing it always. I mean, when we are releasing a new album, we've always got US tour and European tour. We recorded Tiny Desk NPR session, World Cafe session, and a lot of. We are really well. It's not, as I said earlier, it's not about competition who is better or worse, but we are really lucky, especially to US feedback. I mean that we are really lucky to great US partners, and we feel it's when we're going to US. We feel like home, like in Gdańsk. It's really nice.
Nice.
Cool.
Do you have any plans to potentially play in Columbus?
We have to do it right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just bring you all over.
not right now, but
Yeah.
give us few months, all right?
Okay,
Cool.
all right.
Yeah, totally. Let's do it.
We'll hold you to that.
Yeah, there's quite a good selection of venues around here, so awesome.
It seems that renowned Polish filmmaker Agnieszka Holland is also a fan of the band and has been actually using your music in her movies, including the upcoming Franz, which of course is a biographical film about Franz Kafka. How did that come about, and how does it feel to know that your music is resonating culturally in so many different ways?
Great question. And Agnieszka Holland is one of the best director in the world, and she was many times nominated to Oscar, and she lived for many years in LA in US. She made a great movie about Arthur Rimbaud. It's called Total Eclipse. Leonardo DiCaprio is playing Arthur Rimbaud. But anyway, Agnieszka Holland is great artist. She's a great friend. I know her. We know each other for many years. She's a great friend, but it doesn't mean that she wants your music to her films.
Yeah.
So this is great. I mean that we cooperated with her in her last movie, Green Border.
Yeah.
And it was a really big movie, awarded with a special jury prize on Venice Film Festival. And now there is a France, and the cooperation is even bigger. And we are really happy, really proud, especially me, because for me, Franz Kafka is the most important writer. So I really love Kafka from A to Z, and I read everything, and I'm rereading everything year by year, and I'm obsessed with him from my teenage years. And and suddenly right now, in this great movie, because I think this is a great movie, our music is a part of it, and I couldn't be happier. And yeah, so you should watch it, definitely.
We'll definitely
Yeah, we
plan
definitely
to.
plan to, yeah.
We were lucky enough to screen Green Border a couple of years ago at OSU, so that's really cool knowing that your music was in there.
Yeah.
So you've also mentioned that you're a poet. How does that inform your music, if at all? So for example, do you deal with similar topics or themes in your poetry and in your music?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that we've got a democratic structure, so it's not Trupa Trupa is not about Grzegorz Kwiatkowski, but But I've got my ideas, and I'm focused rather on the dark side of humanity, and I'm rather and my poetry. Yeah, first of all, I'm a poet, I would say, and then I'm a musician, and so yeah, I wrote a lot of books, and a lot of books in US. They were published in US, in France, in UK, and in more countries, and most of these books are these poems are poems about genocide, about very edgy topics, about dark nature of human beings, and it's a very sad stuff. And my family has got, it's not about and very important thing is that it's not about imagination. It's not about that I'm obsessed with the tragedies. I guess that I'm
Mhm.
my grandfather, when he was a teenager, he was a prisoner of a German Nazi concentration camp Stutthof, located 30 kilometers from Gdańsk. And when I guess I was 9 years old, my grandfather had a strange idea, and he invited me to this museum of the Stutthof concentration camp. And when we and it was his first visit after Second World War. And when we entered the gates of this camp, he started to cry, shout, scream. And suddenly he was in a state of trauma. So for me it was, and I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what was going on. So I guess I was feeling even a bit shame. There was a lot of tears, and I didn't know what my grandfather was doing. Anyway, but from that point, I started to ask myself the questions: why people are killing each other, why people are building concentration camps, gas chambers, etc., etc. And so I was started to digging this stuff more and more deep, and I'm doing it till now, and I'm terrified. And it's this ability of human beings to kill each other and is something I can't stand. But we can see right now that unfortunately this never again motto is rather a motto, not a real call. So yeah, and on the other hand, my wife has got a Jewish roots, and her grandmother was hiding in the forest near the city of Rzeszów during the Second World War as a child, as a little girl. So I'm from Polish Jewish family. Everything is mixed, and but so for me, these topics are very natural. It's like I'm just focusing on my family story in some way. But in the past, I was also a coordinator of Amnesty International in City of Venice for many years. So I'm just trying to. I'm just asking myself questions, and focusing on these the dark, horrible tragedies. And my idea is, that my poetry and my art is not into blaming and judging. I'm judging, and I'm not a historian. It's not about that. I think it's rather about realizing that this heart of darkness is in a potential way in every one of us. You know what I mean? And I think that if you find out that you could be also the bad guy, I think this is the beginning of the moral life in your life. You know what I mean? If you understand that you could be also the person who can make a harm, then you're beginning the new life, moral life. And it doesn't mean you're great, but you try to be great in a moral way. So these kind of ideas are very important for me. Moral, ethical ideas. I think this is the clue. But also, I love art because of the beauty and harmony. And for me, the beauty and harmony gives hope. And for me, hope is very, very important, especially when you're dealing with such dark topics. So for me, classical music, Mozart, but they are very, very important because, not I don't want to commit a suicide. You know what I mean? I just want to, to move forward and to be a good person. And art gives me beauty from the nature, and from art gives me hope to move forward.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, related to that, you spoke a little bit about the themes and influences of your poetry. Can you say a bit about your poetic style? Is it similar to or different from what informs your contributions to Trupa Trupa? Or
Trupa Trupa, for example, Trupa Trupa has got a song called Never Forget from Jolly New Songs album, and this Never Forget song is a song inspired by Shoah, documentary movie Shoah by Claude Lanzmann. And so the lyrics are: "We never forget humiliation, we never forget those ghetto deaths. They sound like a midnight choir." So there are some songs inspired by the history, and they deal with tragic topics, but they are also very open, I mean, for interpretation. So for one person, it can be a song about Holocaust. For the other person, it can be about, ghettos, modern ghettos, for example, right? Yeah, but I'm very, my lyrics in Trupa Trupa are usually very minimalistic, and they're very open on many meanings. Some reviewers called our band Samuel Beckett Lonely Hearts Club Band, and I think this Samuel Beckett thing is like a absurdity, nihilistic thing is inside our music, and this is mainly my contribution. And in a poetry, I'm more factographic, right? So I'm dealing with the uh, real voices of the people who were murdered or were murdering. So in my poetry, I write in the methodology of American poet from Chicago called Edgar Lee Masters. Edgar Lee Masters wrote Spoon River anthology, and I'm trying to do analogical, almost same thing, but I'm not about, of course, landscape of US, but about landscape of Central Europe.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Great.
So speaking about landscapes of the US, you've been visiting and lecturing at various US universities in recent years. Can you talk about your experiences with that a little bit? What do you talk about or research while you're there?
Yeah, well, it's a big topic, and I mean but I can focus. For example, this year I'm Yale artist in residence, so Yale residence is very, very, very important for me, and it's not only about talking, lecturing, but it's mainly about writing a lot of poetry for a whole year, poetry based on the Holocaust testimonies from the Yale Fortunov archive. So, almost every day I'm well, not almost every day I'm doing it. And I will present it on 10th of October in New Haven. But anyway, so this is a part, one thing. The second thing, I also cooperate with Oxford University. So for example, we created their virus of hate workshop. So these events are mainly focused on ethical stuff, moral stuff, on history, on this kind of on problem of hatred, these kind of issues. And it's about mainly it's talking about how art, how books, how music can deal with very tragic issues, and how art, books, music can help in processing and understanding not only historical facts, but our dark nature, really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you have a particularly memorable moment that you've had during these visits at US universities, or anything that kind of stands out as for you?
Well, I was in US last time in February, and we had a Trupa Trupa tour, and
Mhm.
but but in the daytime, I had lectures at UCLA and Berkeley and American University in Washington, etc., etc. And I think that your democracy is really in a very bad state, to say at least. And it was very moving for me, very shocking almost. I mean, I came from Poland, from east of Europe, Central Eastern Europe, and I saw young students and young Americans who are afraid. And it was first time in my life that I saw a fear on universities, and it was shocking thing for me. That so in some way I came and I was giving a hope from Gdańsk, from the City of Solidarity to
Mhm.
and so it was great in spiritual way, very fruitful. But I was always also very sad after all, sad for the state of democracy in America, and I hope you will recover soon. Fingers crossed for your midterms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. So just to kind of pivot a little, some of our viewers may not be as familiar with Polish culture as me and Diana are, for example, or Poland in general. So that being said, what are some of your favorite things about Poland? Be it favorite places, foods, cultural aspects, etc.
Of Gdańsk, of course. And Krakow. Krakow is a lovely city.
Yeah.
Zakopane in the Tatra Mountains is a great city.
Mhm.
Well, it's a village, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's a great place.
beautiful.
Well, actually, it's a city. And you know, I think Wrocław is really great.
Mm.
The east of Poland is also very beautiful. Well, a lot, but mountains really, mountains are really lovely. And Krakow, yeah, I think Krakow is as great as Gdańsk, maybe even better.
Oh, okay.
So,
Oh man.
so these are the cities, and there's also a culture, and we've got a lot of great artists. We have, I
Mhm.
think, if you want to know the biggest masters of Polish culture, I think you should read the poetry of Czesław Miłosz. And
Mhm.
Czesław Miłosz was also a U.S. citizen, so he was a scholar at Berkeley University for, I don't know, 30 years or 40 years. So he's also like American poet. But I think that Czesław Miłosz is really like one of the best artists, not only in Poland but in the world. I think that Agnieszka Holland is a great director. Krzysztof Kieślowski was a great director. Witold Gombrowicz was a great Polish writer. I think that Joseph Conrad was a Polish and British writer. Joseph Conrad who wrote the Heart of Darkness. I think that most of the best Polish artists actually I think they were really great because they didn't live in Poland actually. I mean that they lived in Argentina or in France or in US, and they had a great perspective from the distance
Yeah.
on this stuff. Yeah. So yeah. But I think it's really fascinating stuff. But on the other hand, we had really in 1945 when the Second World War started, it didn't did when the Second World War stopped, when it was finished, it wasn't finished for Poland. I mean, we had like a Soviet occupation till 1989. I mean, it's called PRL, and some people in Poland they have a sentiment to that. Some don't, but I think it was a really bad thing, and we were really under totalitarian occupation. Not in a very hardcore style, but it was
Yeah.
still not a free country. And I think that that's why our culture was very repressed, and I think now we've got we are a country in some way. We've got right now a democratic system for 35 years, something like that. So it's very, we are beginning, and I think the best things are going to come.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Is there any particular food, for example, that you would recommend to somebody trying Polish cuisine for the first time?
I would say that pierogi, I mean the dumplings, but I don't think that dumplings are only a Polish thing. I mean that they are Eastern thing, right? Like a Russian thing. Yeah, but they are great. Also, something it's called babka ziemniaczana. I don't know the English translation. Babka ziemniaczana. This is a great thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Maybe this too. Maybe as a soup, there is a soup called żurek. It's also a great one.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, there are some things, some great things. Yeah, definitely.
That's nice. Are there any particular musicians or bands from Poland that you would recommend to viewers?
I'm not so into music scene. We were always kind of outsiders, and not that you know. So I can recommend you the bands of my friends, but I don't know if they are the best. You know what I mean? They are my friends, so of course I think that they are the best because they are my friends. But
Yeah.
these are really great bands. So for example, there is a band called Nagrobki. It's also from Gdańsk. It's called Nagrobki. Yeah, it's very funny. They are very talented, but. mm, but I'm not so into Polish musical scene. I mean, I don't want to be arrogant or ignorant or yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there are tons of great things, but I don't know about them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Understandable.
That's fair. Yeah. Mhm. I guess I just have one follow-up question to when you were talking about your sort of poetic style. I've read reviews of your work and that kind of thing, and I've read some of your work, and a lot of things that people bring up is how sort of short and kind of blunt and in many ways simple, but sort of in the amount of words, but not in the meaning that your poems are, right? There, I think I read something that you used to, or maybe you still do, used to write it on an old Nokia phone to kind of keep it very,
I got it.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Nice.
yeah.
It's
Um,
always close. Yeah.
and that you sort of, you chip away so that it's as kind of short and to the point as possible.
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit more about that and why you choose to write that way?
Yeah, I think that it's yeah, it's very short, it's very direct, but on the other hand, it's very open, and I think that it's very short, and because of this, I really believe in this less is more idea, this motto, and I think that especially when we are touching such hardcore topics like genocide, less is more is even better. I mean and in some way, lack of emotions creates emotions. You know what I mean? And creates when there is no very big narration and author's perspective, you are invited to think by yourself about it, right? So you have to make your own way of thinking on these minimalistic shreds and fragments of this broken Holocaust mirror. And yeah, I think that's why. I mean that's why I don't want to write in a longer way. But also I write it on this broken mobile phone and without connection to any company, and so it's very hard to write on it, very, and when I'm full of emotions and ideas, I have to be very lapidar, and while I'm because the one poem can have a length of one SMS, and so first of all I have to be very lapidar, and secondly these whole big emotions are just running away while I'm having these technical issues, and it's really great for art because I hate melodramatic art with big emotions. And I think they are not very good, especially to this kind of art that deals with genocide. There are a lot of there is a lot of kitsch in Holocaust art and genocide art, a lot, tons of it. And in some way I understand it because it's very natural to search for a happy end, for example, in such dark landscape. And these technical issues create like a neutral style, neutral emotional, neutral style of narration. And that's why I also love Glenn Gould, a famous Canadian pianist, and he was playing this classical music in a very neutral, mathematical way, and I really love it. And then yeah, I love this kind of a neutral way, and then you can do something with that, or you're not doing something with that. But it's all about you and your emotions. So someone is giving you notes in some way, and you have to recreate it in your way. And I don't like art which is very, which tells you what you should think and about the stuff. For me, it's very, very, I would even say totalitarian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's super interesting because my own research kind of deals with silence in Holocaust literature and literature dealing with Poland's past. So it's interesting to sort of hear your perspective on that, how much what is not said can say a lot, right?
Yes,
And how
definitely,
it's
yeah.
how it's often very generative in a sense, and it's obvious that your poetry generates a lot of thought, as does the music of Trupa Trupa. So that's great.
And this is the connection because the lyrics which I write, because there are also lyrics of my friend poetic, but the lyrics that I write are really, they are almost so tiny. They are, they don't exist. They are really like little words. And in the past I was afraid of it. I mean, that I didn't know if it doesn't have a sense, if it does have a sense, that maybe I thought that it's meaningless, maybe. And then in most of our reviews, really great reviews, reviewers are focusing on the lyrics. They said that the lyrics are really, really good. So for me, it was like a really surprise because English is not my first language, right? So I didn't feel secure then. But one more time, less is more, and creating a space for a listener is something we really need, even if we don't know that we need it. We really need it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us and talking with us about
My pleasure.
music, poetry, and everything. This has been really great, and it's been great to get to know you. And I hope the folks viewing this video
See you soon.
will also
See you soon.
enjoy it.
Yes.
Yes, and also see you soon because you have to play in Columbus.
Yes.
We're holding you to that now.
Let's do it. It was an honor to talk with you. I love the question. I love the atmosphere, and I felt really great. So thank you for thinking of me.